What's up? I'm Ayla.
Hi, I'm Beth Ann.
And this is Let's Talk BL, a boys love podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast. It is Sunday, Series Sunday, the day of the week where we talk all about one series and one series only, chock full of spoilers. So if you have not watched this series, you should reevaluate life because this is like a staple.
It truly is. If you have not seen the show, you can't sit with us.
No.
And honestly, it's one of the best shows. It's a classic.
Yep.
Also, it's only appropriate that it is the very first series Sunday of season 2, albeit slightly late.
It's an oldie but a goodie.
An oldie but a goodie.
Yes, we're talking Dark Blue K.
DBK, DBK, DBK.
Okay, let's get to the notes and then we'll give our opinions. Our expert opinions. Okay, so this came out in 2019, which makes no sense, but also BL timelines don't make sense because
BL timeline is like a Jeremy Bearimy. So
you have to explain that because I don't know what that means.
If you've watched The Good Place, you know what a Jeremy Bearimy is.
Okay.
But in this TV show called The Good Place, again, if you haven't seen this TV show, like kind of weird, but okay, we'll go with it.
I tried to watch it and I started watching it, but I just wasn't into it.
Anyways, in The Good Place, time does not run in a straight line. It runs in a Jeremy Bearimy because the timeline looks like
loops.
If you were to write Jeremy Bearimy in cursive.
Gotcha.
So BL time is Jeremy Bearimy.
Yeah. And BL time, everything happened in 2020. Like so much happened in 2021 that like it's crazy. Okay, so it's 12 episodes. It's on YouTube, as is all of GMMTV stuff.
We stand accessibility, stand GMMTV.
It is a sequel to Kiss Me Again. And Kiss Me Again is a prequel to Kiss.
But Kiss came out before Kiss Me Again.
Yes. And
so in order, so it's almost like Star Wars. It's almost like the Star Wars like timeline.
Makes no sense.
Right.
Don't try to make sense of it. And then Our Sky is like a spin-off episode. Just a fun little episode of Taenu frolicking as Pete and Cow.
I mean, as we love, a good Pete Cow frolic.
Okay. It stars one of GMMTV's pillars.
I mean,
if you're new to BL, GMMTV has pillars.
4 pillars, in fact.
4 pillars. Go look it up, or maybe we'll do an episode about it. Probably.
Sure.
We have Taenu.
Yes. So Tawan, the Tawan.
Yes.
The Tawan plays Pete, and the new Thitipoom plays.
Cow.
That's his name.
It is. Cow.
Plays Cow.
Love it. We also have Mork, played by Flute Godwin. We have Sun, played by my favorite, Pod Sepicorn.
You do love Pod.
I do love Pod. He lives his best like farm boy life and then occasionally comes into the city to act. Like it's not unusual for him to be holding a fish in his Instagram stories, which I love. Then we have Rain, who is Sun's brother, played by Plume, and Non, played by none other than one of the twins, AJ Chayapul.
Of AJJJ fame. AJJJ fame.
I would say the twins should be a pillar.
But the pillars are all ships.
But it doesn't have to be a romantic ship.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Now you can't sit with us. Now you can't sit with us from that comment alone.
Okay.
So, again, before we get into the nuts and bolts of things, let's start with
read the synopsis.
A synopsis. Okay. Yeah. The continuation of Cow, Pete, Sun, and Mork's story. While Cow and Pete's relationship has grown stronger, they are still hiding it from most. Cow is closeted from his mother, and the fear of her finding him out looms over him and his relationship. In the meantime, Cow's mother introduces Non, her boss's son, as a student in need of Cow's tutoring. When Non shows interest in Cow, it fuels Pete's jealousy. The secrecy and jealousy put a strain on their otherwise thriving relationship. Sun has begun to give up his unrequited love with Cow, and suddenly Mork is around a lot more. While Sun pushes Rain to stay away from Mork, the younger man's uncontrollable behavior draws him in. Sun's seriousness settles Mork down. Despite their constant clashing, the two start to care for each other.
So cute.
So good.
It's a solid synopsis. I think it's great.
So good.
Okay, let's start with the title credits.
The title credits. Oh my God.
It is such an incredible title
Amazing.
credits that like you never skip it.
It's a non-skip. Again, if you skip the title credits of Dark Blue Kiss, you can't sit with us. Like, you're just literally not allowed. Like, I refuse.
So it truly speaks to my like soap opera heart. Like, I grew up on soap operas. You know, I was not forced because I think I remember enjoying them, like watching them with my mom and my grandparents. Like, it has the billowy curtains.
Yes.
It has the
It sets up the drama, right? Like,
It has
the
the
love
song.
triangle. Yeah, like
So
the
good.
song is outrageous. And
It's
so,
so good.
like, truly, whoever at GMMTV edited this title sequence, like, I'm going to send them a money bouquet.
I love it.
And they're going to be really confused
Right.
because the show came out in 2019. And there's just going to be a note that says, like, thanks for DBK. And they're going to be like,
Wait,
they're
what?
genuinely
Yeah.
going to think that they like have a stalker or something. Like, they're going to be like probably concerned.
Yeah.
But I mean, truly from the bottom of my heart, like, thanks for DBK.
Yeah.
Like, one hundo Pete.
Those opening credits, that one tear.
Oh, the single tear that runs down
The
New's
tumbler.
cheek. Yeah. Oh, when the tumbler hits the concrete. Okay, you know what? Let's get into the show. And let's start with what is the opening scene of the show, but also it's like the crux of the drama, right?
Yeah.
The tumbler hitting the concrete.
Which I have tried to figure out how to get this tumbler. We love merch, of course.
Obviously.
And so this tumbler I absolutely need.
Yeah.
And I have
It's been out of stock since I watched Dark Blue Kiss and fell in love because Dark Blue Kiss is one of my most rewatched shows. Actually, I rewatch Kiss Me Again way more often than I rewatch Dark Blue Kiss, which is interesting. But not Kiss Me Again the whole show. Just the BL cut.
Yeah.
But I just genuinely love these characters. I love Pete and Cal, and I love their story, and I love all of this. And so the first time I watched Dark Blue Kiss, I was like, I need this tumbler. Like, immediately I needed this tumbler. And it has literally been out of stock on the GMMTV website.
It's still on their website, so
then.
I have hope that like one day it will be restocked.
I feel like they have some hiding in that building. And one day when I make it to Thailand, I am going to march myself up to that GMMTV building. I'm going to get that visitor's pass. I'm going to ride the elevator up to the 5th floor. I'm going to talk to the little security man, and he's going to go to the back and he's going to be like, I'm so sorry, we don't have any. And I'm going to be like, I will offer my manual labor to you. Let me come like redo your inventory because I know that there's one hiding in that building somewhere and I need it to be mine.
Yeah. We need the tumbler.
This is how I feel about this tumbler.
Okay. So the opening scene of the show is the climax, that fight scene, that line. What are we?
We're friends.
We're friends.
Truly one of the most heart-wrenching BL breakups. Like, I cannot remember another BL breakup that affected me so viscerally. Like, my heart breaks a little bit more every time I rewatch this breakup. And I have rewatched this breakup a lot. And every time my heart continues to break a little bit more. No spoilers for currently airing shows, but there's one that I think might get me a little bit more. Like, we were cleaning set before recording this episode and the song from this other breakup started playing and I literally started crying. Like, and you had to be like, Ayla, we have to record an episode. I need you to not be crying. And I was like, I just can't. Like, so this might be replaced soon.
Amazing.
But in the current scope of things, I actually think that this is the most heart-wrenching BL breakup because it's so filled with it's so filled with frustration and emotion, and it's just been building up. And it's like Pete just breaks. Like, he just breaks in that moment. Like, his spirit breaks. And it's so sad because Pete is ordinarily so, like, happy-go-lucky, and he's, like, the mischievous one. He, you know, and he's not worried, right? Like, Cow is the worrier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, to see his spirit break that way, it just,
he's put up with so much, so this is
it kills me.
Also, this is one of the very few shows that we get a long-term established couple relationship in the show. Like, they start this show having been in a relationship for 3 years.
3 years, right? So they get together and Kiss Me Again, and it's their freshman year, and then we jump ahead, we're junior year by the time we hit Dark Blue Kiss.
Which is, unheard of. So the fact that, like, this couple that has been together, that we truly love is now breaking up for stupid reasons. Well, not stupid reasons, but like reasons that could be controlled if they just communicated and like worked through their issues. But really, it's Cal. Like, you, of course, are always talk about the fact that like Non is just a detail.
Non is the straw that breaks the camel's back in this situation. And so
when them being dishonest and Cal ultimately being dishonest about who he is with like everybody that he loves.
Right.
That was going, no matter what that thing was that broke them up, there was going to be something.
They were always going to break up. Yeah. And so let's talk about the breakup and the reason. So Non has his own issues, and we don't like Non for for one main reason. So Non is just a kid, to be honest with you. Yeah. But Non's behavior is the reason that like people don't believe victims, right? Yeah. So like he didn't get this thing that he wanted and he threw this fit, and instead of just like, getting like a rebound or whatever, like something else happening, he lies about what happens and he literally ruins Cal's life, right?
He's like, if I can't have it, nobody can.
Right. He literally ruins Cal's life. And so Cal loses his job. Cal loses his internship. Cal's mom is about to lose her job. Yeah. Like he really, truly ruins his life. So that being said, this is not an excuse for Non's behavior, but truly Cal made some pretty pivotal mistakes with Non that I think are important to talk about because like number one, we're not talking about, so Non is a high school senior.
Right.
Let's say he's 18 for the sake of argument.
Yeah.
Non is a high school senior and Cal is a college junior. So like assuming the passage of time works the same in high schooling, he's 21.
Yeah, right? There's at least 3 or 4 years.
He's like 2021.
Yeah.
And so we're not talking about like an 18-year-old high school senior and an 18-year-old college freshman, which does happen frequently in BLs, right? Like this is a frequent like BL, relationship. No, that's not what we're talking about here. And so we're talking about an adult and a child.
Yeah.
And so essentially and on top of that, Cal is Non's tutor. He's his teacher. Yeah. And regardless of whether or not he's like purposefully abusing those power dynamics, those are real power dynamics and those are in play here. Like he is in a position of power over this kid. Yeah. And so you have both of those things going on.
And even though throughout the show, Cal has constantly been like, I don't like you. I'm not into you. His actions are not matching up with those words.
Right. Particularly in one pivotal scene, which is when like kind of everything hits the fan.
Yeah.
Which is when Non goes out, he gets drunk. Pete and Cal have already broken up, as a matter of fact. And his friends call Cal and are like, oh, he's drunk. Like, can you come take him home? Because if we call his dad, he's going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And we don't like Non's dad for like other reasons.
Totally.
But in that moment, what Cal should have done as the adult and as the teacher, he should have called Non's dad. And if he still felt some kind of way about calling Non's dad, because I think that it is implied in this show that like Non's dad is physically abusive. We know he's emotionally abusive. We know he's a bad guy for lots of other reasons.
Yeah.
So if he's still feeling some kind of way about like calling Non's dad, what he should have done is called his own mom.
Right.
Like who he clearly trusts, who he knows would take care of this kid, right? Like she introduced him to him. Like we know. So like, why did he not call some other adult when knowingly he went into this situation?
Yeah.
When he knows this kid likes him.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, it's a really pivotal mistake. And that being said, it doesn't excuse Non's behavior of like lying and, and like going through all of those things, but it was like a pretty pivotal mistake.
There's a clear grown up and a clear child in this situation.
Right. And so when Non's dad calls him in, so Non's dad calls Cal and his mom into the office after this all goes down. And Cal basically, he literally says Non started it.
Yeah.
And Non's dad just looks at me and says, he's a kid. You're an adult. Yeah. And in that moment, I'm sorry, but he's right.
Yeah.
This guy, we do not like this guy, but like in this moment, he's absolutely correct. And so it's just like, I don't know. It's a difficult situation. Now, all of this being said, I actually still think that Pete and Cal would have broken up without Non's involvement, because Pete was in a place in his life where he was ready for everyone in his life to know about his relationship and know about this guy that he's in love with.
Yeah.
And Cal's not in that place. And it doesn't mean Cal's a bad person. And it doesn't mean that Cal has to be in that place. What it means is that they probably weren't ready to be in a relationship.
But if you're in a relationship with
Right.
someone, like, you kind of have to be on the same page with each other in that regard.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting? I realized that, like, I never hate Cal throughout this whole series. Like, props to New, I think, for bringing some type of like humanity and sweetness to Cal as a character, because although like he plays this like just super nice guy, like nice to a fault, right?
Right.
And so we get from him just like a niceness and a sweetness. And so like as much as you're frustrated with him and you're like, dude, everyone loves you, everyone supports you, just like be honest about who you are.
He's just going through something.
Truly.
He honestly, he is like the definition of just going through something.
Yeah, for sure. And so what I love about the show is that they resolve it very nicely and actually pretty quickly. So you get
and you get lots of fluff. You get lots of the like sweet Tanu moments.
BL form, you get a Facebook Live.
You get a Facebook Live.
From Pete being like,
Pete comes in and saves the day with like his recordable plushie, so which is amazing.
That he like accidentally recorded because he was so angry he was holding it too tight. And so I just love that they give that resolution. And yeah, you get some great fluff moments. You get a sweet little like anniversary scene, which again, I think it's important that Cal is the one to do the anniversary scene, because again, it shows that like he does love Pete and he is there for Pete. He's just like not come to terms with himself.
Just going through
like,
something.
He also has taken this like this, you know, male like dominant role in his family, and so I think
he's become the head of his household.
Yeah, and so he feels responsible and he doesn't want to cause any trouble
for his mom.
He thinks that, you know, coming out to her and telling her about Pete, although like they hang out, he literally feeds him.
Oh yeah, so we need to remember to ask William about this when we have him on
with the food, because we share food all the time. And in America, we share food with like random
with strangers. Yeah, totally. I went out to like a work lunch the other day with people that I had I had worked with virtually. And we were just meeting for the first time in person, and we all ordered something different, and we were all like, "Oh, would you like to try mine? Like, it's so good."
And you'll like put something on their
plate, right? Like you're not sharing a fork or anything.
But like in Thailand,
we share a fork all the time. But
in Thailand, potentially you're married.
You're married at that, right? Like I married like some really rich dudes the other day. Apparently, like I don't know.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
By Thailand rules.
So it's very clear. And same thing with the friends. Like the friends know that there's something going on, but they're like being very nice. And
they're like, okay, guys,
you guys are doing that. So so Pete and Cal have some great moments. There's that like sweet scene that you know is foreshadowing the breakup when they're sitting by the pool and they're like,
what would you do if you ever had to leave me? Or like, what would it be like
if we break up? And it's like, okay, guys, you basically just told us you're gonna break up. Like we know this is coming. And there's just like some sweet scenes, like the bus scene where they're like leaning on each other's shoulders. So
and you get a lot of there's not a lot of spice to this show, which I think is funny. Which, like, honestly, in true like GMMTV old school fashion, not a lot of spice, right? Like, and that's just sort of like. There's this joke among like I think BL fans, at least all the like BL friends that I have. There's this joke that like, oh, it's GMMTV. Maybe we'll get a high five.
Yeah.
And so,
or a fist bump.
A fist bump now. Although, please don't talk to me about that right now. I need a minute. But so, right, like there's this joke that like the joke is that like GMMTV shows don't have a lot of spice, but it's
2022. They're going borderless.
2022 is a different story.
Boundaryless.
I'm talking about old school. Right, like old school GMMTV. There wasn't a lot of spice, but the nice thing about this is Pete and Cal have a lot of really nice kisses, not just pecks, right? Like so they have like the kisses that they do have are really nice, which like that's never the focus of our show, but like they are really nice.
Yeah.
And like the way that they handle this established relationship in terms of like the implied physical relationship is actually really funny.
It is funny.
And it's really nice. And they promote like safe sex.
I wonder if Drake gave them any lessons. Because Drake truly is like the king of suggestive comments. And so I feel
think
like
Drake was a baby when this happened.
But even still,
yeah,
he could give them some notes.
I think Drake was a baby.
But yeah, okay. So speaking of like safe sex, and this show has literally every type of parent. So you have Pete's dad.
Speaking of safe sex, let's talk about your parents, kids.
So Pete's dad like gives him a condom.
Right.
Fully is like, I want to be supportive.
He's like, they were giving these out at my office.
Yeah. So you have like Pete's dad who's like really supportive and wants to know him and wants to be supportive and maybe a little like
in his own way,
too involved.
But like he's just trying to make sure his kid is safe.
And then you have Cal's mom who is loving but is kind of conflict avoidance and
she's just scared to have that conversation with him and he's scared to have the conversation with her. And so it's not that she's not a supportive mom and they don't have a good mother-son relationship. It's that they're both just scaredy cats.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And then you have Non's dad who's just
the worst. But Pete's dad is truly the OG best BL parent, right? Like he's the best and he's the original and you know we stand. And I think that's kind of like how you know you're a grown-up when you're watching these shows. We were talking about this because we were watching Twilight the other day and I had mentioned to you, I was like, that's how I knew I grew up, is when all of a sudden I was watching Twilight and I was like yeah, Charlie. Yeah. You know, like I get that. So and good. That's kind of how I feel with like Pete's dad. I'm like, oh, what a good guy.
Yeah. Like, now I know why Pete turned out so well, because his dad is so supportive. So, okay, we've talked a lot about the Pete and Cal of it all. Let's get to the Mork and Sun of it all. Sun and Mork?
Sun and Mork. And you know what? We were robbed. Truly, we were robbed by not getting more Sun and Mork, by not getting a spinoff. I don't know. What would we call it? Like Coffee Kiss?
Oh. That would be really cute.
Like truly,
or Just Kiss Me.
Just Kiss Me. Oh yeah,
Just Kiss. Like at the end of the show, they do a lot of like playful, like don't touch me. I'm gonna sleep with your brother. Like
Just Kiss.
Wouldn't that be cute?
Just Kiss, which is like truly the like motto of all BL fans.
Yeah.
Like,
now kiss.
Now kiss.
We should start a hashtag.
Hashtag
justice for Pod and Fluke.
Hashtag Sun and Mork Just Kiss.
Just Kiss.
Yes.
So they're a fun. Speaking of Twilight, I feel like it's the same thing where it's like, Sun imprinted on Mork and was just trying to be a supportive older brother type of thing because his brother was friends with
Mork,
and so he takes
Mork
him under his
like
wing.
A troublemaker.
He's a troubled kid. He's just going through something.
He also is just going through something. And you know what? There's a moment
we're gonna have a t-shirt that says he's just going through something.
So there's a moment actually at the end after Pete and Cal, like while Pete and Cal are broken up, and Mork and Sun are like fighting, and Mork is working at a new coffee shop where I know, where Pete and Mork become friends and they sort of like bond, which sweet. I actually love that moment because Mork is Pete when Pete was in freshman year. So if you watch Kiss Me Again, which like I love the BL cut of Kiss Me Again, there are actually multiple cuts. I have watched every single cut, like every single way it can be stitched together because I like it so much.
Right.
Because I love that old school like enemies to lovers trope. I do like it. Like I think that might be one of my favorite tropes.
Yeah.
And so Mork is what Pete was in Kiss Me Again, right? Like Pete was always getting into fights and he was just going through something. And so I think it's so nice when they like bond and kind of become friends separate from Sun and Cal because that's their connection. Sun and Cal know each other, right? So like that's what I love about that. But Sun and Mork, boy, were we robbed.
Yeah. I love also that there is a mountain frolic. We don't get a beach frolic, but we get a mountain frolic.
No beach frolic, but we need to talk about this mountain frolic because this show was directed by the one and only, the man that we stan above all others, Piaf.
It's so good.
So if you watch...
He also is a pillar of GMMTV.
Yes. If you watch Dark Blue Kiss, you might notice some similar shots to another Piaf masterpiece, A Tale of a Thousand Stars.
It's so true. There's so many key elements from A Tale of a Thousand Stars that originated in Dark Blue Kiss. You got that like rough mountain gang.
Yeah, oh yeah, a mountain gang rides up, but also just like the visuals of the way
beautiful.
that they shoot the
Yeah, yeah.
mountains are very similar to the way that they shoot the mountains in A Tale of a Thousand
Right,
Stars.
right.
So it's actually like a really fun kind of like Piaf Easter egg.
Yeah. I love that. I also love like they get matching shirts because they just have to.
Because there's an incident with some noodles, and so of course they have to get new shirts.
I love how Piaf has two extremes. Either you get a little burn or you're injured and you need some ointment rubbed on you.
Piaf loves a good ointment scene. Like this man,
you get shot and you're in the hospital. There's no in between.
This man loves a good ointment scene. So again, another Piaf Easter egg. If you're a fan of the ointment in Bad Buddy,
your hand just lingers.
Wait, isn't there ointment in Together too?
It's been so long since I watched Together.
I think there's some ointment action in Together as well.
I don't know if I like the term ointment action.
So another Piaf Easter egg is the ointment. And so I actually love the scene where the ointment comes into play. So
funny.
Mostly because
the hand
reason, not even that, the reason that the ointment is needed is that Mork has noodle burns.
Right.
Like he gets in a scuffle at a noodle shop over some seasonings.
Because
as you do.
Makes sense.
And he needs some ointment for his noodle burns, and it just like it's so funny.
It's so ridiculous.
It's so good. It's so ridiculous. And so I love that. But yes, so what happens is Mork gets out, like Mork has to go shower because of course he's covered in noodle juice. And naturally they've gone to an inn.
I'm sorry. Here's the noodle juice.
So naturally they've gone to an inn and they're like, we need 2 twin beds, and they're like, only doubles.
No, of course.
Only doubles left. Can you guys share a bed?
Obviously.
Yeah. And so
how else were you gonna stir the feelings?
Yeah. So Mork goes to shower the noodle juice away. And when he comes back shirtless with just the towel around his neck.
Yeah.
Sun is like, let me take care of that for you. And Mork is like, oh God, no, don't touch me.
Right.
Because like, not because he's one of those like.
He's feeling some feelings.
Right. The stirrings have already begun.
Right.
The rumblings of his budding.
He hasn't been able to play his guitar to fully realize his feelings.
So he's like panicked about being touched by this man.
Yeah.
And Sun is like, don't be ridiculous. Like, it's on your back. How are you going to do this yourself? So he turns him around. And he starts rubbing the ointment, and his hand kind of like stays.
Lingers.
It lingers. There's a lingering hand, and the rumblings, the stirrings.
And then he goes to like, he's like, oh, let me see your front.
He's like, let me see your front. So he's like, okay, all done. Let me see your front. And Mork turns around. Turns around.
The tension is building.
And they're so close. And the best part about this scene is that you as a viewer are like, now kiss, now kiss, now kiss, now kiss, right? Like you as a viewer are just so like you're ready for it.
Right.
And the best thing is so is Mork. Like you can see on his face that he's like, now kiss, now kiss, now kiss,
and
now
Sun
kiss.
Is like, I'm gonna go take a shower.
And then Sun goes, oh, you're fine, and walks away.
Yeah.
And like truly a power move.
So
truly a power move. So I love the ointment scene in this one.
Yeah.
I think I like it more than the Bad Buddy ointment scene. I need to rewatch the Together ointment scene. I feel like we should do a comprehensive.
Oh my God.
We should do an episode about all of Piaf's tropes.
Oh, that would be cute.
And we just like rank the different tropes.
I love it so much. Also, can we just talk to Piaf one day and be like, Piaf, tell us how you're such a genius.
Piaf, if you're listening. No, truly. But the thing is, I don't even have any questions for Piaf. Because there's nothing for me to question him on. Everything he's done is perfect. This is like how in our interview with Om and Nanan, which how deep are we in? We're pretty far in now. What, 15 minutes? If you listen 15 minets in, you deserve a spoiler.
Yeah.
How Nanan basically said Om knows everything.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Piaf. Like, Piaf knows everything, and there's nothing for me to question him on. So
Totally.
I would truly just be like, okay, we have an hour. Can you just like talk?
Tell us your ways.
Yeah.
Okay, so then Mork is feeling the feeling. So then he goes and plays his guitar.
As you do to work through your feelings. Another Piaf trope.
Yes.
Yes.
Except this one's less like emotion filled. I'm so sorry. Okay, so I love this. It's a confession scene that's not a confession scene because they're talking and Sun is questioned by Mork, and Mork is like, "Do you like guys?
Do you like men?"
And he's like, "But do you?"
And
because I think in that moment, I think that's his consent. Because I was just thinking about this. I was like, it's kind of aggressive that he then just kisses him. But I think he got consent. It's like To My Star, where he's like, you could have moved away, but you didn't.
Or no, yeah. Well, he doesn't even say you could have. He says, "I'm going to kiss you. Move away if you don't want it." Right? Like he says,
no. He says, "I'm going to kiss you," or "Can I kiss you?" He says, "Can I kiss you?" And then he counts, I think.
Yeah.
And then he kisses him, and then he's like, "You could have moved away." It's such a great scene. So I think he's asking him consent in that moment where he's like,
"Do you?" And Mork doesn't say anything, or Mork says, "I asked you first."
Right. And so
then he kisses him.
Which it's an excellent kiss.
It's actually a great kiss. Again, we don't really talk about kisses on Series Sundays because it's like not really the point.
Because also not a lot of shows have great kisses.
Yeah,
or a lot of kisses.
Show, every single kiss I would say is like solid. Another Piaf trope. I mean, barring Together, we don't talk about that.
We don't talk about Together.
We don't talk about Together. You know.
But yeah.
But so then he pulls back and Sun says, "Do I still need to answer that?"
Right. And then I love that Mork throws a mini tantrum and it's like, I don't know how I feel about
this.
Well,
he doesn't really throw a tantrum actually. So what happens is he says, "Do I still need to answer that?" And then he says, "What about you?"
Yeah.
Right? Because like that is Sun giving his answer. And Mork at this point has not given his answer.
Right.
And instead Mork, and this is what I like so much about Mork, again, is he's not one of those guys that's like, "I'm not gay. I don't like men."
Yeah.
Like that's not
He's not an up and gay.
He's not a type. He is not a type.
Yeah.
He just says, "I don't know." And he walks away because again, in my favorite trope, he's just going through something.
It's true. So then kind of the storyline of Mork and Sun is very sweet because, you know, they're working through like the original issues of the conflict of their life of like, Mork isn't quite sure what he wants and who he is. And Sun is very much a go-getter. And he's trying to further his like coffee shop and he knows what he wants and he knows who he is. So he's just trying to kind of show Mork that he can also have this like kind of more straight and narrow life and he doesn't have to always be in trouble and that they could be in a loving relationship. And so so then they do have like the other good thing about their situation is that once they have that kiss, Sun kind of steps back and he like lets Mork figure out like his feelings.
Kind of.
Like,
he does pressure him a little bit in that he's like, "I know you don't want to see me, but we need to talk about this." And like he does kind of confront him a few times. It might be a little bit more than necessary.
I also love that Mork goes to like all the like other people, like goes to a couple of different people and is like, "I feel this way."
I don't think he ever admits he feels a certain
maybe
kind
not,
of way.
but he's like asking questions related to
He asks about Sun.
Yeah, he asks Rain about Sun. He like has a moment with Kitty, the ex-girlfriend, and she has like a fun little spiel about like how she kind of almost pressured Sun into a relationship, and it turns out
and
like,
what she says is she's like basically like, "We broke up because he was gay." And she's like, "And it's great, and we're friends now." And
she's like, "Maybe I'm gonna kiss a girl
she's
now."
like, "Maybe I'm into girls now." Which, like, can we get a GL from Piaf? Like, please?
He's like taking baby steps. We got ink and paw.
Right. Well, first we get this nod to "I want to kiss girls" now, right? Like now I want to date a woman.
Yeah.
In Dark Blue Kiss in DBK 2019. And now, right, like fast forward 2021, we have ink and paw.
Yeah.
And like so 2023, I guess, because 2022 is already locked in at GMMTV. Like, let's say 2023, full-fledged GL, Piaf, hashtag Piaf GL.
Into it. So then what is like they have like a tiff because this like gang comes and like
Right.
beats
So
up
Mork. So Mork has promised Sun he won't fight anymore.
Right.
And a rough and tumble gang from his past, from when he was protecting Manal,
Yeah.
who's this little high school girl who's like got a love triangle thing going with Rain,
Right.
comes to the shop and is like, has it out for him, and he's like, he doesn't fight back. Right. So like they beat the tar out of him. Like he ends up in the hospital.
Yeah.
Right. Like full like shot in the side.
Yeah.
No spoilers if you don't know what show I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And to Sun, again, this is another situation where like we talked about this a little bit when we talked about Don't Say No, where I was like, it's not actually Leo's fault that he was upset with Fiat after like the whole thing that went down, because like Fiat's past behavior would suggest that, you know, that's what went down. And again, Mork's past behavior would suggest that this was probably like a two-sided fight, although it wasn't.
Right.
And so Sun is like understandably upset because also his coffee shop gets trashed. But moreover, he was just like, he had explained to Mork, he was like, the reason I don't want you to fight is I'm worried about you. Like, he's like, I want you to be safe. And so he's upset and he's like, you broke this promise to me, and like all this stuff. And similarly to like the reason that Pete and Cal ultimately break up, which is not Non, it's the fact that like Pete could never have trusted Cal that nothing was going on with Non, because in Pete's eyes, Cal was keeping a secret every day of his life. So how is he supposed to trust that there are no secrets going on there? Right. Like when in his eyes, Cal can keep such a huge secret every single day of his life. How is that? How would a secret about Non be any different? You know? And it's the same thing with Sun and Mork, where like Sun is like, how could I trust that you didn't get in this fight? And so they like, and then of course Mork's feelings are hurt that Sun didn't believe him. He ends up going to work for another coffee shop, and it's kind of Rain that like pulls Sun out of it and is like, you're being a psycho. He didn't even fight back. That's the reason he got so hurt.
Let him explain himself.
Right. He was like, the reason he got so hurt is that he actually didn't fight back. And then we have like a reconciliation, another very sweet kiss, and
matching t-shirts.
And matching t-shirts. Barista and Barista's boyfriend.
I know. I want those shirts too. I want all the shirts. I just love shirts. I bought 2 shirts from series in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, literally, I would walk out of the house to go do something and I'd come back in and you'd be like, hey, I just bought us these shirts.
It's for the podcast. We got a match.
A business expense.
Business expense. We're going to write it off. Okay. So
you write it off.
It's true. What else about this show? The Friends.
The Friends. Okay, wait. I want to talk about Nikki. We need to dedicate at least 5 minutes to talking about Nikki, because, like, okay, Nikki, if you're listening,
yes, Nikki plays June.
Nikki plays June, who is
one engineer friends.
One of Pete and Cal's friends. And what I love so much about June,
great one-liners.
He's got great one-liners. He's such a dork. And mostly what I love so much about June,
he's just Nikki.
It's just Nikki. Like, I truly believe they didn't even give him a script. Somebody just called Nikki. Like, it didn't even get put on his schedule officially, I think, which is why he's in the show
Nikki
so
was
sporadically.
Just, like, on set for some reason.
Yeah, Nikki showed up because like that's where his friends were. And he stole an engineering shirt out of wardrobe.
100%.
And he just sat down and was being Nikki, and they left it in. Like, this is how I feel. Like, actually, when Hundo P, I want to interview Goy just to be like, can you tell me what it's like to live with Nikki? Like, I am so curious. Like, what must that be like?
I'm sure she just sits back and is just like, she just like is entertained by him. Like,
I don't know.
Like, doesn't actually interact. It's just like, we'll let Nikki be Nikki.
And that's what happened on Dark Blue Kiss. We let Nikki be Nikki.
We also have Sandy, played by Mild, who is truly one of the best girl actresses in GMMTV because she plays such a variety of characters.
She plays a variety of characters and she kills every single one of them.
She goes from the best friend in this show to in a throuple with Tay in 3 Will Be Free.
Yes. And it's so wild. So I was thinking about this because I loved DBK. Obviously, DBK. I loved Dark Blue Kiss long before I ever watched Three Will Be Free.
Right.
And it didn't even occur to me when I was watching Three Will Be Free that I was watching Sandy and Pete kiss.
Totally.
Because they both Tay and Mild, do such a good job with their characters that it's like, that is Pete and that is Sandy. It has nothing to do with Tay. It has nothing to do with Mild.
Right.
And similarly with their characters in Three Will Be Free, right? Like, those characters have nothing to do with Tay and nothing to do with Mild. And so, like, that's what I love so much about Mild as an actress. She's just so immensely talented. And then also, like, Sandy's just awesome.
Right.
Like, she's a girl in a male-dominated field. Actually, the whole series is about her.
Yeah, Kiss, the first show was about Sandy and another girl.
The first show,
like their relationship.
The first show is about Sandy. Like, and so Sandy is just a really
and her
cool
relationship
character.
with the other guy, Thada, played by Mech. And so, like, their little friend group is really funny because, like, they have a lot of these moments. Like, I love, there's a moment where June always brings up Non because he knows that, like, it's gonna it gets on
Peas.
And so there's like a moment where he like gives him his shirt because he's like, you're gonna be an engineer, like, let's check this out. And then there's another moment where he's like, I knew he was bad news, you guys are just idiots. Like, he fully calls them stupid. It's so
I love the friends, and also they're really supportive of Pete and Cal at every stage of their relationship, right? Like, they're understanding when they break up, they're understanding before they're willing to tell anyone, they are supportive when they get back together. Like, they are just fully on board with their friends' happiness at every stage of the relationship, which I think is nice.
I also really love, as an ex-girlfriend role, Kitty, played by Apple, truly is
Kitty's a great ex-girlfriend.
She's one of the best because, like, she's not there to she dissolves the conflict. Like, she truly is like, she's like, be cool, bro. Like, we work through this. Like, there's no jealousy. She's there to help. She's there to help her ex-boyfriend with his coffee endeavors. Like, she's proud of him as a friend because she says they were friends first. And so she wants to be friends after.
And her only regret is that they kissed, which, like, girl, if your only regret in life is kissing Pod, like, you're doing pretty good.
Maybe I take back the fact that she's a great girl because that is not okay. Okay, so all the friends are amazing. Also, like, Manao is a sweet girl. Like, she's that whole
the straight relationship is actually the one that I care the least about.
And it's so small. Also, to wrap things up, we have a guest appearance by
our babies.
Thitipoom.
Which, okay, if you're
a sweet scene.
Actually, I was gonna say if you're new to BL, but maybe even if you're not new to BL, because this information I think it's lost in all of our brains so easily.
Yeah, because you saw it again and you were like, oh yeah. And you said you've seen this show 100 times.
A million times, because yes, I always forget. So Neo and Pooin are actually an OG GMMTV.
I know.
ship.
When we watched Cause You're My Boy, I was like, wait, what?
I was shook.
We had already seen Futz.
And so we were like, oh, Neo Pooin brothers. And then when we see them shipped in Cause You're My Boy, we were like...
Which is why I love watching all of the GMMTV BLs, because there's always those moments where, like, in Futz, there's that funny moment where Neo kisses Pooin's forehead.
And he
like,
says...
do you think I'm a pervert? I'm your brother. Something to that effect. And so I love those moments where you're like, if you are deep in that BL life like we are now... then those things are fun, but you don't realize
what's funny about it too, when you think about it, is that Neo and Pooin, despite the fact that they were babies when they did Cause You're My Boy, they had to have workshopped. I know. Like, what?
They had such fun energy in that show because they fully recognize that they're like 14 in the show. They say it. They're like, we're 14. This is ridiculous. Yeah. But they're kind of having like, they're best friends, so they're just having stirrings. This is not a Cause You're My Boy series.
No. Although we need to do one.
But so continue telling like their role in Dark Blue Kiss is important because
their role in Dark Blue Kiss is really important because it's sort of like implied that you're seeing the grown-up versions of their characters from Cause You're My Boy, or a little older, not grown up, but a little older. And we meet them when Cal has just gotten this job as a tutor, and they walk up and they're kind of like bickering about
like how to get to where they're
about
going.
how to get to where they're going.
Yeah.
And they're just having this like little like they're just bickering, which is very Pete Cow, like Pete Cow bicker, which is actually the only time that you see a similarity between Pete Cow and Tainu.
Yeah.
But so they just like bicker and and at this point Pete and Cow have broken up, and Cow sees Neo and Puin, and he gets nostalgic for the friendship part of his relationship. And so like that's nice because he's obviously already missing the romantic side of the relationship with Pete, and so like these two boys bickering really you can see bring him back to like just that friendship that he's now missing, that is not a part of his life. And like it's such a small but important role in showing the importance of like the whole relationship.
Right. Yeah, this show is so good. It feels very much like a soap opera without being too dramatic. It's one of those shows that I showed this show to somebody recently because I had to rewatch it for this. And it was somebody who had no previous BL experience, no previous like Asian entertainment experience. And I was like, let me show you this show. It's ridiculous and amazing and wonderful. And she was fully into it. I was like, aren't these credits wonderful? And she was like, yes. And I was like, aren't these boys beautiful? And she was like, yes. And so I was like, this is a great show that if you want to get your friends into BL, this is a great way to start.
You know, I never would have thought of like DBK as an intro, but it makes so much sense because the tropes are so strong. And as much as I'm excited that in BL in 2022, we're getting away from like the engineering major and the college campus and the swimmers, right? Like this is another very strong trope across this is like the swimming pool situation.
Well, you have to have a reason to be shirtless most of the show.
I mean, sure. I mean, I think maybe that's what it was for Waterboy, which I only bring up because you won't stop talking about Waterboy, which is highly confusing for me. Like, but then why?
It's because Top Tap.
No, it's not, because you literally like 2 days ago tried to convince me that Big Earth and New, their kiss in Waterboy was like a really good kiss. And I fully never even finished Waterboy. Just like full disclosure, I never finished Waterboy. And I was like, no, it wasn't. And you were like, yes, it is, Ayla. You were like, you didn't finish it. Maybe you don't remember. And I was like, no, Beth Ann, it's not. I was like, no. And you were like, yes, Ayla. And you were like, just rewatch it now. You were like, it's been so long. Like, you just need to watch it now. And I was like, okay. And you put it on the TV. And I was like, Beth Ann, no.
Whatever.
So
it was interesting.
I think you just... Was it? Anyways, the nice thing about Dark Blue Kiss and like why, it actually is a really great one to start your friends on, is that it has every single one of the tropes, but they're done really well. Yeah. And this is all credit to Piaf 100B. But tropes for me are comforting. Yeah. And so like in this case, there's a familiarity to it, but it's still a new story. And it still, again, for me, breaks my heart every time. And it's just so, I mean, it's a comfort show. Yeah. It's a comfort show.
I love Dark Blue Kiss. I love Tainu.
Love Tainu.
I love that they're still going strong.
Yeah. Well, I would argue, so there has been some talk that like the ship is sinking. No. I disagree.
They just came out with like a Chiang Mai travel blog.
Right. I mean, they don't have like a show.
Right.
They do a lot of couple work. So the ship is still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ship is still
and they're
sailing.
On like the season of School Rangers.
Right.
They're still going strong. Plus, like, Tay's always hanging out with his grandma and giving us great content.
I mean, I love Tainu as a ship. So, like, last season, I got outed that, like, Tainu is my go-to ship. So, not my favorite boy. My favorite boy remains War. Always on that War agenda.
Debatable, because you're always talking about Alfred these days.
Here's the thing. Alfred is, like, a nice distraction while I wait for Love Mechanics. Like, because truly...
While War's busy, you've moved on.
Okay, I have not moved on. Like, I would throw Alfred off a cliff to get to War. 100p. Sorry, Alfred, my dude. But, like...
You can have a different boy in every country.
No. War is number one in my heart, always and forever.
Yeah.
I would throw literally all these boys off a cliff to get to War if that was what was presented in front of me.
Yeah.
So no, I'm so offended right now. I am so offended right now.
Ship. This is your favorite ship.
Taenu is actually my go-to ship because I love the way they approach couple work. Like, I love that they are the quintessential example of fun friends. I love that they have like known each other forever. I think this is another thing people forget, that Tay and Often New actually all joined GMMTV at the same time. Like, they joined together, and they were co-hosts of this like game show. A while ago, GMMTV did a series where the ships like had to memorize essentially are lost in translation.
Amazing.
But about each other.
Yeah.
And I think it was Off that was saying that he and Tay and New like had this conversation that no one was going to call each other P when they joined, because they wanted to all be like even. So like those three have actually been friends for a really long time, and it shows in the Tay New ship, because basically what happened is like it was truly GMMTV being like, they're friends, maybe they want to kiss, because everyone else had already been established. If you think about how long they had been friends, like I think that Offgun got established even before Tainu. I think so. Puppy Honey came out before before Kiss Me Again.
For sure. I know we need to do a whole episode of like the history,
the Jeremy Bear Me of GMMTV,
of BL ships, just like who started when
although that would
popular.
Be highly confusing when we go to talk about Big Earth, because my dude Big Earth and Pod have just like
they've been recoupled a few times.
And Cow Tongue now at this point too, with 5515.
We'll always have Earth Mix
and Ponpuin.
Ponpuin. I always think, and I saw a conversation on Twitter recently about how we should just start talking about like shipping, like coupling up other boys, like how interesting that would be.
I am fully supportive. I want at some point every boy in GMMTV to have been paired up with each other for a project.
Yeah.
And then I can rank which ship is the best out of all of them. This is what I want.
So interesting.
But so Tainu, their ship. They're a quintessential ship because like they are the definition of they're just fun friends, and like I love the way they bicker. They like get in fights and they argue with each other, and they're also like really physical with each other, in like they like will push each other, and they'll like.
I feel like Nanan are the new Tainu.
Yeah, another Nanan interview spoiler, like how when was talking about how after they had done the martial arts classes, he fully like lifted Nanan above his head and then body slammed him to the ground. Like that is such Tainu behavior.
Yeah.
But like to an extreme, like it's Tainu behavior, but make it right. It's Tainu behavior, but make it who's like a 6'2" ridiculous.
Well,
like,
and Tainu are now 30, so and Nanan,
they would hurt their knees. Yeah. Like it would hurt their knees to do that. Tay and New,
highly suggest Dark Blue Kiss. I love everything about this show.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good. Before we go,
we have merch.
Buy our merch.
Seamless transition.
So seamless.
We used to have the t-shirts close enough to like.
Okay, well they're not close enough because they're about to go in the mail to two very special boys.
If you want to get the shirts that our season 2 guests get after we chat with them, you go buy the t-shirts. We have t-shirts. If you watch the Nanan interview, you'll see us wearing our sweatshirts.
Our Yindi Ton Rapsu, Let's Talk BL Citywide podcast t-shirts in Thai.
There are mugs.
There's a Gang Daddy t-shirt.
We're going to add to our like different phrases. Somebody suggested he's just going through something,
which we are so adding. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's super easy. Honestly, like we tried to price it as cheap as humanly possible. We make no profits on these. And there's free shipping in the United States. Yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Shop.letstalkbl.com.
Yes.
Super easy. Buy our merch, please. Thank you.
This has been Let's Talk BL. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow all things Let's Talk BL at Let's Talk BL.
See you next time.